Hi, good morning. Welcome to my office hours. Come on in.
Hi.
Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Good. Yeah. So we don't want to focus too much on just the research today. More about your personal life, your journey. You spend a lot of time not only on research and teaching, but you also have multiple hobbies you spend a lot of time on, including beer brewing, painting, and motorcycles. Can you tell us a little bit more in depth about this?
So as a graduate student, I loved riding motorbikes. And that was something I was very excited about, very passionate about. And over the time, that was just a part of my DNA that I started liking machines.
From a person that also likes motorcycles, I'm a little bit more interested in what you ride, how your experience with a motorcycle has been. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. So my first motorcycle in life that I rode was a Yamaha, a red color. It was 150cc, very light but very good, very precisely done. Now, fast forward, the bike that I have now is Honda Shadow. Red color, steel writing, beautiful, but it is 750cc. It is a big machine.
Yeah.
I used to say that I love to put the air in my hair, but with the age that I am, it is kind of less possible now. So, but at the same time, safety is important. Safety is
Absolutely.
important. And my wife likes to ride with me, which is great. I promised her that I would not ride on the freeways, but so more than about 15 years before, I suppose, or maybe even 20, I started making my own beer. My first beer experiment was at home, and it was a little explosion. But that was fun. Thanks to my wife, she was very tolerant. But the second experiment resulted very well. And then that sets me on the journey. And then during Christmas, I gave this to gift to people sometime. I shared with my neighbor, friends, colleague, faculty. Even my students, not on the campus, but even with my students. But that has actually taken its own existence, very personality existence. And then from the painting, this is something I discovered myself. I didn't intend to set out to do that. But I work in the area of what is called bio-inspired engineering. That means how nature has designed, whether it's a bird feather, whether it is the bark of a tree, how it designs. And in that I have found out colors, textures, patterns, architects, and nature is one of the great expression artists. And what I found out in the process that if I can learn from that, and if I can quote unquote mess with the colors, and the textures and the patterns, I really discovered myself that I love to express myself in various ways, and that is really it started about a decade before.
So obviously you're a family man. You're both a husband and a father. Can you tell me a little bit more about what your family means to you and how important they've been?
Yeah, my family is my life. In a very simple way to tell, my life mate, my wife, is a lifelong teacher. We are both lifelong educators. That's what we are. We had decided that early enough, and that's what we are. We are lifelong educators. Education doesn't mean teaching only. You learn from life and you teach as a part of that. But so we are lifelong educator. We are first generation immigrants, both. So we learn America through the lens of our children. So we have a son, he's in Silicon Valley, California. He is also in technology, he's also in business. Our daughter, she's in the communications and journalism, and she graduated from Berkeley, came to Purdue, she worked for Purdue. As a first generation immigrant coming to this country, I grew up in India. The system is very structured, in some sense, that time at least, very orthodox. Typically, the system will tell what you're good at, what you can do. But Savita and I wanted our children to discover their life. That is very important. That you discover your skills, you continue to do that, and then you build your life and career. And that was very, very gratifying to see how they had done it.
We know that you had a interesting backstory. Would you like to share a little bit about this journey and how you ended up as a professor in mechanical engineering?
Well, I think that is a very, I would say, dense question, but exciting question at the same time. But what I would suggest that in the hindsight, and it is a hindsight of about 27 years in academia, partly overlapping, in about 15 to 16 years in the business. And there are a few things that I see that really connects all the philosophy, from physics to material science to manufacturing to business to my personal hobbies. What does it mean? First is curiosity. I personally am very driven by curiosity. I really like to learn many things, not one but many things. The curiosity is very important for me. And with that curiosity, what I also found out, especially as I built my career along, that being compassionate with curiosity is very important. Compassionate with curiosity. Because when you're working, say, with students, when you're working with your own family members, when you're working with the community, when you're working in the business world, the word compassionate comes actually very helpful. And then what that has resulted in is being curious about whether it is how to make beer, or how to ride a motorbike, or how to paint a picture, or in the classroom, how to communicate a complicated topic in the most effective way, or how the additive manufacturing works. So it's all driven by really those words that you really conversions of these multiple topics, and then use that as the effective tool to communicate. But that's how I see. I can go far more deeper, but really that curiosity, compassion, and convergence really sums up.